Oppenheimer is Christopher Nolan at his best and his worst. Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, it's David Chen. I talk about movies, TV, tech, and the media, and I had a chance to watch Oppenheimer recently. I'm going to share my thoughts with you here. Obviously, Oppenheimer is based off of real-life events, but I'm still going to try to be as careful as possible during this video to not give away spoilers from the movie. I'll start by sharing my overall thoughts on the movie, which is that I thought it was pretty good, pretty interesting, pretty fascinating stuff. There's about 2/3 of the movie that I think is really impressive, and the other third I'm not as excited about. I love what the movie is trying to do, which is chronicle the fact that during World War II and the Manhattan Project, the United States developed an atomic weapon and used it on civilians. The development and use of the atomic bomb changed the world forever. It changed science and politics, and it changed how we engage in modern warfare. I think it's important that our art deals with it and forces us to struggle with some of the decisions that we made during this time. So I salute the idea that Christopher Nolan decided to take $180 million of Universal Studios money and make a movie that's mostly people sitting in rooms talking and arguing about stuff. That is most of the movie. When Oppenheimer is about the creation of the atomic bomb, the race against time to beat the Nazis, it is really thrilling and fascinating. Oppenheimer and the US military brought the best scientists in the world to the middle of the desert to build this bomb that they had no idea if it would actually work, and maybe if it did work, it might ignite the atmosphere and destroy the whole planet. And they spent billions and billions of dollars trying to make this thing a reality. The movie places you into the position of these scientists and forces you to consider what would you do if you were in that situation. If you knew that the atomic bomb was going to be capable of enormous destruction and causing great human misery, but you also knew the Nazis were going to try to build one, would you be okay getting involved in the effort to build one? And what if there were a non-zero chance that the bomb might lead to the end of humanity? How would you weigh that as a possibility? I love that the movie asks these questions and forces the characters in the movie and we as the audience to really wrestle with these issues. I was also really impressed with what a subjective experience Oppenheimer is. Christopher Nolan is somebody who really believes in the cinematic experience, and he makes complete use of it here to place you into Oppenheimer's perspective. What that means is there's like dream sequences and hallucinations and visions that Oppenheimer has that are often very vivid, both in terms of audio and visuals. This is a movie that will bludgeon you into submission, not only with its 3-hour runtime, but also with just the sheer weight of the production design and sound design. I watched this movie projected on film in a normal theater, but I'm really looking forward to watching it in IMAX. So all that sounds pretty great. Why do I have any gripes with this film? I think Oppenheimer suffers from a lot of things that make recent Christopher Nolan movies challenging to watch. Specifically, I feel like a lot of Chris Nolan movies are so loaded with plot that they forget character and emotion. A lot of this movie feels like it's just hitting beats of Oppenheimer's life, like it's a biopic basically, and it crams in a bunch of events, and as a result, a lot of characters don't feel well served. I'm thinking specifically of actors like Florence Pugh, Emily Blunt, Rami Malek. These are all really talented actors, high-profile actors that have some roles in the movie, but I would struggle to find more than 1 or 2 adjectives to describe them or what they're doing here. Characters often feel like they're just there to say dialogue and move us on to the next plot point. I also think the pacing of the movie is really, really rough. As I mentioned, this movie is 3 hours long, and I don't think it's giving too much away to say that eventually in the movie the bomb does go off. It's in the trailers, there's flames and stuff like that. You know it's leading up to this big explosion. And all I'm going to say about it here, because I'm trying to be as vague as possible, is that the explosion happens at a point in the movie that really shocked me. If I can elaborate on it more, again, I'm trying to be as vague as possible. I'll just say I wanted to come out of the movie really being thoughtful and thinking about man's place in society and science's place in society and so on. But instead, I felt exhausted by the movie, and not necessarily in a good or interesting way. In the trailers, you see that there's stuff in the movie that's in color and stuff in the movie that's in black and white, and the movie cuts back and forth between those two things. There's an entire plot line that happens in the black and white storyline, and I'll just say I found it considerably less interesting than the other stuff. I understand what Christopher Nolan was trying to do with that plot line. I understand the points he's trying to make. For me personally, I know this is a subjective opinion, it didn't feel like it was a good fit for what was going on with the rest of the movie. At the end of the day, I still have to recommend you see it because it's a notable work of art. No one's making films like Christopher Nolan these days. I personally don't think this is top tier Chris Nolan. I think I would place it closer to the lower or mid part of his catalog. But I think this movie is one of the most urgent movies he's made. I think it's one that has the most to say about modern society and how we handle things like science and weapons. And at the end of the day, the movie's also about what happens when someone creates something and then loses control of it. Oppenheimer had no control of what happened with the atomic bomb after he made it. He didn't decide to drop it or who to drop it on or where to drop it, but he had to reckon with the idea that he was largely responsible for its creation. And that is totally a theme in a lot of Chris Nolan movies, people who create things that expand beyond the scope of their control and that they actually try to rein back in. And in many ways, it also reflects Nolan's career. He's a guy who made superhero films super popular, only to see them completely take over over American cinema. With movies like Oppenheimer, perhaps he's trying to atone for that. I'm David Chen. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please give me a like, follow, and subscribe. And if you're a patron, a huge thanks to you for making my videos and my work possible. I appreciate you. See you in the next one.